Checking in on construction around the Disneyland Resort. New developments in downtown Disney, ToonTown, and Tiana's Bayou adventure. But first, I found something on this day that I was shooting this recon footage that I wasn't expecting. A lot of people. I arrived at 9:30 a.m. on this Friday morning, and I did walk in on this day, which means I entered through the Harbor entrance, the bag check here at Harbor. Normally I do my bag check at Toy Story. And I felt like this was abnormal. I felt like this was an abnormal amount of people for 9:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m., sure. But 9:30 a.m., everybody should be in the park at this point, right? I wasn't expecting this huge line. And that continued into the park. Here's a shot of Main Street of just a sea of people. Actually, it doesn't look that bad when I look at it in post. But I had a very difficult time just getting to this point on Main Street. It was very dense down the street. And then on my way to our first stop, and I was like, oh my God, Jolly Holiday. Look at the standby queue for Jolly Holiday. And this sort of continued as I went about the park. Here's the line for churros and turkey legs, both. Now, churros I get. Turkey legs, though, at 10:30 in the morning, had 15 people in the queue. At 10:30. I feel like there's a change. And I guess that's the point I'm making, is not like, oh my gosh, look at how busy it is. I mean, that happens. Disneyland crowds go up and down from time to time. This is just unexpected. And I feel like maybe there's some kind of change in what the reservation system and how many guests are letting in. I don't want to get into that in too much detail, but I do feel like that could be a separate video. I may do that later on still, but I do feel like they may have, or are letting in more Magic Keys. That's where the extra population today is coming from. Magic Keys, in my opinion. I feel like they're letting in more Magic Keys. Fingers crossed. Anyway. We'll see. We're gonna keep an eye on the reservation calendar. We got a State of Disneyland report coming up in a few days. But I will say that people were telling me that they got a reservation for Friday morning, day of, and night before. Obviously, I saw that there was Friday reservations available Thursday night, but somebody said that they booked a reservation day of on Friday, which is abnormal for Friday, I should say. Anyway, let's get back to the report. Actually, they picked a bad day to have an excess amount of crowds. When I got to the park, one of the first things I always notice is the status of Indiana Jones. It was closed again. This is about, say, maybe 3 times out of 5. The last 5 times, Indy's been closed 3 of those times. I feel like that's about right. At the same time, Big Thunder was closed. People just standing by, waiting. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was down as well. The cast, they're happy, they're up. But no, the Runaway Railway was down. I even checked the app and found that Radiator Springs Racers was closed at this very same time. At this point in time, 4 attractions were closed. It was about, I want to say, between 9:30 and 10. Even worse, you'll notice I couldn't have possibly filmed Radiator Springs Racers and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at the same time. No, I got to Radiator Springs Racers like 11:30. 2 hours later. That footage that I just showed you was from 2 hours. It had been closed that whole time. It had been closed for about 3 hours. It was still closed when I left. Now, having said all that, everything did get better quickly. It didn't ever get any worse than that. But it's just something people want me to talk about. Well, here we go. Is this worse than it was before? Because I feel like the default is to say, yeah, this is worse than it was before. But I'm not sure. I feel like we've been having this conversation ever since the park reopened. And I'm pretty sure we would have had the same conversation pre-COVID also. I'm inclined to say that this is worse than before, but it's also just part of going to Disneyland. I just feel like, I mean, especially rides like Indiana Jones and Radiator Springs Racers, which is another conversation we can get into another time. Other than I'll say that Radiator Springs Racers goes down more often than I thought it did. Ever since I started paying close attention to it, it's been breaking down constantly, especially ever since I started doing Ride Recon. Boy, have I got some stories to tell you. But let's get construction updates. Let's get to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And we're going to take a tour around this mountain to see if we can find anything new to observe. Last couple of weeks, we've been reporting on the fact that they had tomahawked the top of the mountain and then rebuilt it. They rebuilt the mountain into a different configuration. The mountain is going to look different at the top than it used to. obviously because they took down the tree stump thing. But beyond that, they've also just they've flattened it a little bit. They've made it like a crown of broccoli instead of a spire or a peak. There's a front view. I don't, at this point, though, see, where they've done much different than they have last week. There's still, I think that I feel like they need to let that set, this new setting for the mountain. They need to let that set before they start putting on the coats of theming, as it were, the rock surface, like you see here in the rest of the mountain. That in time will become, more orange and yellow. We're looking now, this is the drop. That's actually the very top of the drop, the cutout, the hole where the flumes drop down. I'm just trying to see if I can see literally anything. I know that they've got the whole Mama Odie's, the fireflies up there, but I don't see anything developing there. I turned around, I looked down into the turnaround where the boats come back around, and I found 2 holes in the side of the hill there. They cut 2 holes in there. As we've observed in other cases, they usually do this in order to access stuff that's back there. They don't necessarily want to redo this, but they need to get at whatever is behind that wall. So that's something we'll check in on, I guess. I mean, you always want to check out holes in the in the structure, right? I was surprised to find so few construction workers on the mountain at this time. This 9:30 a.m. is the prime time usually to see construction work happening in the parks. Didn't used to always be that way, right? Remember, it used to be the case where they didn't. I mean, you got to do this construction at some point. You can't build Splash Mountain or Tiana's Bayou Adventure all at night. And there's no weekends. There's no days off for the park. So I guess you do have to watch it. I know people want to say that's not how it used to be. I kind of feel like there's no way they could do this without us seeing it. Anyway, I digress. Checking in to see if we can find any more things to notice or observe on the side of the mountain. This is from the Briar Patch. We'll go over to the front side of the attraction, looking for any updates there. I will say at this point, I asked last week if anybody would be interested in us covering the construction progress that's happening at Magic Kingdom for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They're building the same mountain. They're doing the same exact thing at Magic Kingdom as we are here, except they are much further ahead than we are because they had a 4-month head start. The majority of you said you wanted to see that. So we will be talking about that. Not now, though. I'm going to put that at the end because some people don't want to be spoiled, or they just want to keep it to Disneyland. I respect that. So we're going to go through this, but that's one of the things I want to talk about is the difference so far with with this building and the building, the entrance building for Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Magic Kingdom. It's considerably different, and not because it's different at Magic Kingdom, but what they've done to it since. It used to look like this. Now it doesn't. And I have to wonder if that's what's going to happen, if the Magic Kingdom is a precursor of what we should find here at our Splash Mountain, at our Tiana's Bayou Adventure. There was a lot of construction workers on this side. There wasn't very many on the front side. They were all working in the back. And as best as I could tell, that where they're standing is the actual track. That's the track that the logs would travel on. And I want to say where they're standing, as I try to get another angle, the light was really poor here, so I had to try to find the right light. I want to say that's right after the lift hill. You go past the Harry Potter owl, you make the right, and then you come around and you see the house on the right, and then there's the pumpkins and the vegetables and stuff like that. I think that's where they are. We're going to get another look at that in a second. We'll go to the back of the mountain, check in on that tarped off area, which looks about as we left it last week. They just covered it up. I wonder if they're doing that for me. You know what I mean? Why? But then again, why not cover that thing? You should be covering that log right there because that is invasive, whatever it is that they're doing there. Here's those guys again. We're seeing this from all sides of the backside of the mountain. I'm pretty sure this is the same crew working on the same portion of the actual track where the logs would travel through on the water. The view that we see from Hungry Bear, they refurbished that already, and we're going to get to see what a refurbished track looks like at Magic Kingdom. So as I mentioned, stay tuned at the end of this video. I'll do some, we got some pictures from a website that's covering. There's not a lot, you guys. They don't do this. There's nobody doing this at Walt Disney World. I mean, I don't know why. I think there's got to be at least one vlogger out there who's interested in this kind of thing. Am I literally the only person who's doing a video on the construction progress around the parks every single week? Unbelievable. Let's check out the Mark Twain. They have added more plastic covering around the riverboat. And you could actually hear while we're standing here looking at the plastic covering, you could hear some whooping and hollering back there. So they're still actively doing stuff. It's not just about paint. They are definitely ripping and tearing. But that looks, yeah, that's considerably different than what we found at last week. So they're probably working on the deck, on the outer deck portion right now, and not the inner deck portion, which is probably why we were able to see as much as we could in the weeks prior. Still looking at least January for the Mark Twain. We'll take this story into Galaxy's Edge real quick, where we found these walls. Nothing, probably nothing. There's nothing there before, so why there would be anything? I don't know what they're doing, but I see construction walls and I record it. That's my job. So there you go. But I don't expect that to be anything worthy of anything. We did this on our way to ToonTown, where we found Donald Duck's boat right where we left it. What a shocker. I do want to talk about, though, we had a very long conversation about that painted on the rear facade of ToonTown. I had said, seriously, that's all you were going to do is paint that beanstalk? We were supposed to get a practical beanstalk back there. I was a little underwhelmed. I was a little disappointed by what they had been doing. I have been corrected on that. This is a correction and retraction portion of our show. That beanstalk has always been there. I had no idea. But it's exactly what I was saying would be the case. My point was, ain't nobody going to notice that. Ain't nobody going to say, oh, hey, look, that's a beanstalk. It's very clever that they painted that on there. They would notice it if it was a practical one. That would be a thing. And that's what I thought we were getting. But I thought that because that's what other websites were reporting. Maybe that's a cautionary tale because I just assumed they were right. Makes sense. Why else would you put that scrim and scaffold there? But apparently that beanstalk has always been there from the beginning. And so what that means, I guess this is good news, bad news. What that means is they weren't doing anything. Whatever that scrim and scaffold was had nothing to do with the beanstalk. It had nothing to do with it. We didn't even know what it had to do with. So it's good. That's good news in the sense that I was banging on Disney about that. I was disappointed and underwhelmed, and why'd you even bother? So I have to take that back now because I should not have, there's nothing to be disappointed with because nothing happened. They didn't do anything at all. Bad news is that we're definitely not getting a beanstalk. You know what I mean? The bad news is that they didn't do anything. I'm gonna go back to that's good news. I don't have to be mad at Disney right now. I could say they should have done it, but they didn't. But at least that's the way it's always been. So I'll take back my complaints. And on that note, that's when I decided to come up to the top of the lookout area at Goofy's Playyard and reflect once more, which is something that I like to do when it comes to ToonTown. Reflect on just what a great job they really have done with this land. Certainly, it's had its ups and downs. It's had its trials and tribulations. It got off to a rocky start, but this really is a triumph, in my opinion. ToonTown is great. I love new ToonTown as much as I've loved any remodel that they've ever done. And I'm happy to see that I still feel that way when I walk through this land. It's crowded, and I wish Donald's boat was working. Otherwise, I still feel really good about ToonTown, and I'm grateful that they did as good a job as they did there. So kudos to that. Tomorrowland, and check in on the Astro Orbiter, where it looks essentially like it did last week. I mean, I shouldn't say essentially. It is. It's exactly like it was last week. I don't see any visible changes here. The whole thing is still there. I don't know if they've taken the arms out. I can't tell. You can't see it if they have or not from anywhere, as far as I can tell. So I don't know. And by arms, I mean, the actual ride vehicle, the arms that hold the ride vehicles. I don't know if they've done anything there. So we'll keep checking. By the way, I should note, part of my commentary last week was suggesting that the sign says winter of 2024. So I said, okay, well, that means it won't be December. It'll probably be January, February. And I was corrected jokingly, but also kind of terrifyingly. I was corrected to suggest that, well, actually, December of 2024, I should say winter of 2024 could be December of next year. Not this year, but of next year. That's scary. I mean, I guess that, that would be good news and bad news. Bad news because we're not going to have Astro Orbiter for a year, and I would miss Astro Orbiter. It's one of the more underrated attractions, in my opinion, in terms of just taking in the park. But good news is that maybe that means that they're doing something cool. It's not going to be December of 2024. It will be January or February of 2024. The monorail. And here's some new developments. We talked about this last week. I said it looks like they're starting to get ready to build. They're getting ready to construct. Right there you can see some footings. It looks like that they're being prepared in the dirt back there behind that work site. But that's one thing. They have, oh my gosh, look at this. Another Well of the Souls. Well of the Souls 2 has appeared. Okay, I give things nicknames. I give construction site things nicknames all the time. Well of the Souls, that looks like something from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It looks like a dig site. So I call it the Well of the Souls from from Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's all. It's a joke. It looks like they're definitely preparing. We've been waiting for them to do something with this portion of the site for a long time. It looks like they've been doing things in phases and they were starting on this late. My guess is this will be the Earls. I'm guessing this is going to be the Earl of Sandwich. As you may have heard, where Earls is presently, which is where La Brea Bakery used to be, they're going to build Portos. Portos has been promised for downtown Disney. We've been told Portos is going in the current Earls site. Probably going to demo that whole building and build something new for Portos because Porto buildings are enormous. You could never fit a proper Portos inside of that Earl Sandwich building. Earls, as we know, is coming back, we've been told, but we didn't know where. I'm guessing this is it. And Earls is supposed to have one of the things that they promised in that update for downtown Disney, the restaurants, was that there was going to be a rooftop bar. I was told that Earls was going to be 2 levels. The ground level was going to be the sandwich shop. The second level was going to be the table service restaurant. And the third level, which is the roof, was going to be that's the tavern, the bar service. That's the rooftop restaurant. It's going to be the Earl Sandwich. That's my understanding. I was told that by, I forget who, I can't remember. But I have on pretty decent authority that that's the situation. People were wondering if maybe they were going to put it on the Best Buy building, the building with the three the retail, the mix of retail and quick service dining. But you could tell the way that what they're doing with that building now, they're not doing anything on top there, as far as I can tell. That's a done deal. That's the top of that building. They're not going to do anything else on top of that. I think it's going on this site eventually. If they're just doing this now, we're a year away, at least, I think, on that. Although I was told Earl Sandwich is going to be done by summer of 24. We'll go check out the grassy area at downtown Disney just to see what's happening with Din Tai Fung. But look at that. Look at that build. That's going to be a beautiful building. When these walls are down and the architectural style of this building is mid-century modern, just like the rest of this part of downtown Disney, it's going to look great. You can't tell because it's all steel right now, so it's not easily seen other than the angular references to the way it's being constructed. But it's moving right along. It's moving briskly. Last week we saw that they were installing the sprinkler systems. This week, I don't see anything of note in addition to those sprinkler systems. There's that one guy back there. I'm not sure what he's doing. But just a lot more steel, and they're progressively adding things. It's becoming more and more of a building back there. As we pan to the left, we're looking at the rear entrance to that space. There's those sprinkler system things that we were talking about. We were advised by many, many people that that's what that was. I had never seen that before, uninstalled, as it were. But that's the beginning of that. So that's first. Next, we'll see electrical or probably air conditioning, probably HVAC as well. What's going on over on the other side? What's going on with the retail and quick service locations? It's about how as it was last week, other than the fact that you can see here, they're putting now. I don't know. I couldn't tell through that tree if that's sheathing or if that's drywall or what. But they're putting a surface where this steel is that you're looking at now. They're putting a surface on that portion of it. There's 5 of those sections, just like that one. There's 5 of those, and the very first one is getting some sort of surface attached to it. Got a guy here in a cherry picker doing I don't know what. Here is the current status of the old bandstand, the stage that was torn down a couple weeks ago. They're resurfacing the walkway there, the concrete. So not much to report here other than it's going to be a few weeks before this is open again. We'll go further down downtown Disney to check out Centrico of Paseo and Centrico. Quite a bit of progress here since we've looked in this last. We've been avoiding this area for a little while. But the last time we were here, we saw them installing the little placeholders. I thought that was going to be for lights, perhaps, but it's for the spokes of this circular feature at Centrico. So those are wooden slats being installed. They're wooden spokes. And then as we roll around, it kind of blocked our view, so we had to slide down to the right a little bit to see what's going on at Paseo. This is finally starting to get some momentum. This thing was stalled and going slow for the longest time, but they have been working rapidly on this section here. Poor Paseo, it's taking forever. That looks to be HVAC, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, though, because I'm a big dummy. This is the old Catal, the circular building. And I'm looking at this because I don't know if you can tell, that red section right there, that actually says Beignets Expressed. I'm not sure why. That's something they would have had to add recently, because Beignets Expressed wasn't a thing when they built this initially. Why is there a Beignets Expressed sign inside the circular structure at Catal? I mean, it doesn't matter why, really. I just find it, I just want to speculate and wonder, that kind of thing. But this whole circular building thing has been gutted out a little bit. And you can kind of see that there's the concrete going on up there. We're waiting for them to, God, there's so much to do. So much to do at Paseo and Centrico still. We're going to go real quick to DCA to check in on the animation building. By the time you see this, it will have been, or I should say, the Beast Library will have closed. It was open on this morning when I stopped by, but by the time this video hits the air, Beast Library will be closed forever. And they're going to replace it with Imagination Campus. That's going to be the new home of Imagination Campus. Imagination Campus was being hosted at the Blue Sky Cellar previously. The Blue Sky Cellar is going to become a DVC, I don't know, I don't know what it is. Something for DVC. I'll show you some clips here of Beast Library. This is it. This is the last time I will ever have been inside Beast Library, and it kind of is sad. It's a little sad. I never went in there, but just seeing anything go away forever, to watch something perish at the Disneyland Resort is uncomfortable. I don't enjoy that. So I will say that I'll miss Beast Library, but it's still a bummer. And then we'll make a stop over at Ariel's Undersea Adventure just to see if there's any sort of update on, if they're changed their mind or if maybe they're recalibrating or something, because I really want them to change this, but I don't think we're going to see anything happen here until after Festival of Holidays. That's the entrance. I wanted to check and see what the standby queue looks like. And that's a lot of people just standing. Not a good look for Little Mermaid. I mean, you did see standby queues get out there sometimes, not very often, but it's not so much the length of it, it's the fact that they're standing still. That's a Little Mermaid is, just like Pirates or, some other dark ride types where it's just a good, swift moving line. You didn't normally see them out here in a walkway like this, that's for sure. But what's interesting is that as I'm walking over there, I'm like shaking my fist, I'm yelling at the windmills, I'm angry at clouds, and then I get there and the sign says 15 minutes. And as you know, that's probably still high. I keep saying this, but I'm going to have to go test a couple of those at least, to see, a couple reps, just to see if that 15 minutes is true or not. If it winds up being 15 minutes, I mean, as much as it's obvious, I don't want to get into it. 15 minutes isn't terrible. It's not terrible. I can deal with that. Clouds. All right. We have reached the end of the show, sort of. So I'm going to now, this is the point where we're going to start talking about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the Splash Mountain refurb at Magic Kingdom. So spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what's going on there, if you don't care, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another and fresh baked. But if you do want to see what our mountain is going to eventually look like, well, actually, Magic Kingdom's not done yet either, but where they're at compared to where we're at, stick around. This, by the way, this first image that we're looking at is what it used to look like. This is Splash Mountain in Magic Kingdom. So you can note bright, colorful rock work there, very, burnt orange, and then sort of a mossy finish to the tops of those, mossy and green. It looks nice. Some basic rock work, and then you've got some wood features there. You've got the the logs in the front, and then you've got obviously the giant tree stump at the top, and then a couple of little sort of dying or deadish trees on the sides there. These images are courtesy of DisneyGeek.com. This is the only guy that I found who's really doing a thorough job of your broccoli crown that we've been seeing them build. at our park, at our Splash Mountain, their broccoli crown is not dirt. They're starting to put some vegetation on there, some foliage. Also note, that's the top half of the mountain. This is the drop. The drop is happening right in front of us, right where that guy in orange is. That's about where the flume drop would be. You can see a lot of very bright, colorful green happening on the bottom half of that mountain as well. Here's a close-up of the top of the mountain, the crown. And if you look at the model that we saw at D23, that model suggested more of a mossy texture, more of a mossy look, a solid green texture to it. This is decidedly more floral. That's like ivy almost. They've got ivy growing out on the top of that mountain. I don't know if I prefer that over, the burnt orange rock work. I mean, I understand that you can't put that kind of mountaintop in the bayou. But as people are fond of saying, you can't put a mountain in the bayou either. Is this a mountain or is this a hill now? Maybe that's what they've turned it into a hill. It's now Splash Hill. They're putting in literal trees throughout the mountain. He's installing a literal tree right there into the mountainside. Not a tree that's growing around it, at least the best I can tell. That actually, if I'm not mistaken, that's right near the lift hill. Now, here's the part that I really enjoy about this part of the process of building a ride, especially something like this. And we watched them do this with the Adventureland Treehouse as well. That's a completely fake tree. So that means every leaf has been curated, has been handmade and installed on that tree. And the thought of that, for me, that sounds like love. Like when I imagine the time and care and energy that somebody went into to make a leaf and say, this leaf, I'm going to make this leaf and I'm going to put that leaf on this tree that's going to be on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And they put their energy into that leaf. Do you guys pick up what I'm putting down here? I don't know why, but I love that. I love the idea of watching them, just knowing that somebody went through that trouble. It's not trouble, just the time and energy and the care to make a leaf, many, many leaves for that fake tree. We'll take a wider look. There's that tree. I'm pretty sure that's the tree that's on that platform right there. So maybe that's not on the mountain proper, but I'm pretty sure that's the same tree we were just looking at from a different angle. The guys at Disney Geek look like they have left the turnaround area and then pivoted all the way to the left. So what we're looking at here is approximately at Disneyland. I would say that's approximately the Mark Twain, maybe to the left of the Mark Twain a little bit, maybe the walkway between Haunted Mansion and the Mark Twain. That's about right. And that's where you would see, by the way, there's Tiana's tower, the water tower with the princess crown, the tiara on there. A lot of mixed feelings about that water tower. I like it. I think it's cool. It looks neat. There's that tree again. Man, there's dudes on there putting leaves on. Get out of here, man. That's so great. Get out of here. Okay, here's more looks at the ivy that they're installing on top of the crown of that mountain. Let's look at the model. Here's the model that we saw at D23. That doesn't look like what we were just seeing on that mountain, I don't think. Is that the tree right there? Yeah, well, you know what? There's several trees, but I'm going to guess it's that one right there. I'm going to guess that's the tree that we watched them build. But you can see there's another one. There's 2, 3, 4 trees. And then obviously trees over here on the right, but trees sort of embedded it into the mountainside. This looks considerably more orange, burnt orange, rocky look than what we're seeing live now. I feel like they have changed their mind. I feel like they have changed their thoughts on what kind of and I wonder if it's to make it look less like a mountain and more like a hill. I said their entrance looks considerably different than ours. Well, there you go. They painted theirs yellow. It wasn't always like this. I don't know if that means we're going to get a yellow entry at our Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I don't know if that's what that means. Also, this is something that if you pay close attention to the development of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, that mural that was painted on there was one of the very first things that people observed and said, oh, more fish shaking and yelling at clouds, because people don't like that. they didn't, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people were very vocal about their displeasure. They don't think it fits with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, with the theming, of Splash Mountain or Tiana's or whatever. I mean, obviously, a crocodile playing, I forget what instrument he plays, but anyway, a musical instrument of some kind. That fits. Yeah, I think it was the art style chosen or something to that effect. Personally, I mean, it's such a small part of the entire thing. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I think I would rather, if you were to ask me, would you rather just not have the mural? I think I would rather just not have the mural, but I'm fine that it's there. It doesn't bother me. But I kind of, on the one hand, I get why people, would shake their fists, but on the other hand, whatever, who cares? So that's possibly what we have to look forward to, is that being our barn entrance, as it were. So there you go. That's where we're at right now at the Magic Kingdom and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They have a 4-month head start on us. Plus, it is my understanding that we are behind schedule here at Disneyland. If we were working at the same pace as they are at Magic Kingdom, we would already have our water tower, our Tiana's Palace or Tiana's Foods water tower, because that happened about 4 months ago. Maybe more at this point. Let us know what you think. We'll keep watching what's happening at Magic Kingdom. Stay tuned for that. And then thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. If you like our show, want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.